Hi, welcome to Books You Can Sink Your Teeth Into. I'm your guest host, Clinton J. Kurtyka, and today I have Grant A. Miller. He's a writer, but he also is the host of Books You Can Sink Your Teeth Into. And I'm glad you're here, buddy.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Glad to be your guest.
Yeah, you're welcome. I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
All right. So I understand you're a writer.
I am.
How many books have you written?
Well, I've written quite a bit. Started years and years ago. My writing professionally started with being I had a talent to find errata, mistakes in books and technical books, and I was looking at Windows Server technology books, and I kept finding mistakes.
Right.
And I would email the publisher and tell them, I found this shouldn't be that, this and that. And they came back after a while and they said, would you like to be an editor for us? And a technical editor. And I said, sure. So I did a number of books as a technical editor. And then, because I would write like how it should be written, then they said, would you like to be a contributing author for us on some books? So I did. I was a contributing author.
So books that you have written in the past, were they fiction, nonfiction?
So those were nonfiction. They were Windows Server technologies.
Okay.
So very dry, boring if you're not in the IT
Anything
field.
that was more exciting?
So then I worked on my thesis, and it was a thesis on Japanese history with Korean Japanese history in the 600s, with the Tang Dynasty and everything, what happened in the technology transfer, the cultural transfer, etc. And I was in New York presenting my thesis. When I was leaving, I saw a bookseller, and the guy who was there was speaking fluent Japanese, perfect. And he was a white man.
Interesting.
Fluent Japanese, and I was like, whoa, because you can find people who speak Japanese, but to be fluent like he was.
To know it, right.
And so I walked up, and then he told the lady he was speaking to in Japanese, he said, okay, he said in Japanese, give me a minute, I'll see what this guy wants. And he turned to me and he said, can I help you, sir? And I responded in Japanese, oh, you don't have to switch to English for me. And then we all three of us just started going blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And his name is Alan Woodman. And he he lived in Japan almost all his life. He trained he actually met Master Ueshiba, the Aikido founder, and trained under his son in Tokyo. So
how cool was that, huh?
Aikido real world instructor, just like Steven Seagal.
Alan Woodman.
And he nowadays he does a stunt academy, and so I put his link up.
Was he in Karate Kid?
Yes, he was.
I don't know why.
That's a good memory. The original Karate Kid movie, that tournament was his tournament in Los Angeles, and the filmers came in, and he has a little bit part on it. But like I said, he did a lot of stunts in Hollywood too. He has like a whole resume.
Yeah, I think he was the announcer.
And he was the announcer.
Yeah, the announcer, and he's actually in the second one in the very beginning.
Yes.
It's the guy in the blue suit, I believe.
I
mean, if
great.
memory serves, yeah. I like movies, right? So you wrote, a lot of nonfiction. Have you delved into fiction? I understand that you have.
Yes. So I had to get some surgery for cancer.
Okay.
And when I was meeting with the doctor and things were going really fast, the doctor said find something to take your mind off of things that you can work on and be engaged with. And so I'd taken some time off of work. And I thought, I've had this story in my head since college.
Right.
And I thought, you know what? I'm going to write it. It's the first attempt at fiction. And I said, I'm just going to write it. It was good, and it was a great therapy, by the way, to do this.
Oh, I can only imagine.
And so that was the nucleus. That's the generation.
That's what set the catalyst for you to write a book. So what's the name of the book?
So it is Murder at Witch's Hollow. So Murder at Witch's Hollow.
Up there. Yeah, look at that.
And it's part of the Detective Shiokawa murder mystery series. So
where's it for sale?
On Amazon. The link, I think we'll have it up on top here.
Okay.
And I have not put this in any local bookstores, but maybe in the near future we'll get this in some local
that would
bookstores.
fit in many bookstores.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that book, you said it's a murder mystery.
Yes.
Is there any other genre mixed in there?
A bit of the supernatural.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I tease the supernatural component.
I like it.
So this murder, so at Witches Hollow was a place where some witches were burned. And so there's this element of, are there evil spirits, or witches' spirits returning to interact with the people in the
That's
murder
right up
and,
my
and things?
alley,
And
yes.
so I guess the best way to kind of look at it is if you're a fan of X-Files, if you're a fan, or especially if you're a fan of Kolchak, the Night Stalker from the 70s, maybe you gotta be a bit older to enjoy that.
Yeah,
But
that was a great series.
Who was that the star?
Darren McGavin.
Yes.
Yes, movie buff, right?
Of
Darren.
And what was the famous movie he did with the kid at Christmas?
Christmas Story.
Christmas Story, yeah, the dad.
Yes.
So he was the star in Kojak, but now he interacted, there were real monsters there. He was a reporter and things would happen and he would find out it was a monster and not a person who was killing people.
So that has elements of that.
Elements of that,
Yeah,
yes.
like that type of, so if you've never seen the show, I guess you could look it up and watch it, but you're gonna enjoy the book.
Yes, you'll absolutely enjoy it. If you're a fan of those type of things, you'll really love this.
Well, I'll tell you what, I read the book.
Okay.
And my take on it is, when's the next book? Because the characters, he builds off of them. The writing is spectacular because you build off of Shiokawa. You know, he comes from Japan and he meets up with Detective Jones. They're both have law enforcement. They're trying to investigate a mysterious supernatural murder that happens in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
What inspired you to do that?
Well, you know, lived in Pittsburgh for years and years, and you know, I love the town, and it just seems Pittsburgh just seems to have that supernatural thing hanging around it, from
that
UFOs
flavors
crashing
that, yep.
to Mothman to, you know, it goes to the dead. That's where the walking or the first zombie movies were filmed here.
Yeah, Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living
yeah,
Dead,
it had
yes.
little sparks around, yeah.
Yeah, so it just seems to have that, you know, attraction for supernatural. So that's why I picked it. And
You picked it, and it shows in the book. Now, this story, though, when I read it, it kind of captured me. You know, you don't know who did the murder. You know, murder mystery, right? No kidding, right? But just when you think you got it figured out, I thought I had it figured out, and I was wrong. And I'm not going to give anything away. I was wrong. I didn't know until the end, and the ending blows my mind.
yeah, so I do, and again, we're not gonna spoil anything here, but I run a couple streams. So you have the supernatural element that you could actually go, well, yeah, it really could be a spirit of a witch, right? And I also run, you know, there's a couple suspects, and you know, for me, like I enjoy Agatha Christie's murder mysteries a lot. I really loved,
yes.
the Poirot series, and I really love how she wrote those, and I kind of incorporated elements of that into this. And so, yeah, so it kind of gets right, it takes you right up to the end, and so that's right.
So what you're saying is, and you tell me, if you're a fan of detectives, investigations, you know, people go to these murder mystery dinners, you know, and they're like, whoa, this is really cool. Who did it? The whodunits, you know. If you're a fan of that, but also a fan of the mysterious, supernatural, you know, this is more than just a typical murder. This is more than just somebody dead laying on the street or wherever this body's found, or many bodies found. You got to read the book, right? Anyways, if you're a fan of that type of elements in books, or this book, you think a reader will enjoy it?
Absolutely, because you know it's definitely a murder mystery. It's definitely a whodunit. So there's clues, there's things that people follow, real clues, but also there's this supernatural element that surrounds it. And so it's one of those, could it be? You know, it's like that unexplained circumstances.
Right.
Like when things like, you know, in life, sometimes good things happen, right? We'll just stick with good things. Sometimes good things, and you don't understand why, right? It's that type of thing where,
Right.
you know, things have happened, and it's like you got people who will, I think the best is that people go out in the woods at night, they'll hear tree knocks, they'll hear howls. Some people are going to say it's Sasquatch, some people are going to say it's a bear. So
Yeah, some of those shows made me believe there wasn't a Sasquatch. Anyways, what I found about this book, and you're saying like it takes you right to like maybe that did happen. But the thing I liked the most about the book was, it's like you're going to shut the engine off in your car, and it still runs. And it's like, why is it still running? I just shut it off. And that's my feeling. That's how I sum it up. Like, I'm going to shut it off. It shouldn't be running, but it is. And while it's running, it starts taking off this direction, then this direction. And just when you think the engine's ready to shut off, it takes off that direction. And that's what captivated me. I was like, wow, there's so many different twists and turns in this book. The mystery part just plays heavily. The supernatural part, you know, it's there. It's all over the pages. How did you even come up with that?
Well, so I'm a fan of, like I said, supernatural things like X-Files, and so I've always been a fan of those things.
Right.
And when I first started writing, it organically happened. So I set the scene, and at first I was just going to be a tantalizing location, but then it started happening. Like, oh, maybe somebody could see
Right.
something, or somebody could hear something, or something could be unexplained, and
Right.
it just kind of organically grew.
Right.
And actually, you and I had talks.
Yes.
And as this book developed, these other elements started to just grow, and so it wasn't planned at first.
Right.
It kind of grew into it.
Well, the funny thing is that book, there's so much in the book that, you read it, you're going to understand what I'm saying. There's so many things that happen where, like, wow, it points totally to this direction. This is how this murder happened. No doubt about it. And then, bam, it goes totally the opposite direction. You're like, wait a minute, that's not exactly right. And it makes you question yourself, until you read it to the end. And then I'm not going to give it away.
Yeah.
Makes sense or doesn't. Right?
Yes. So, well, I'm glad that the twists and turns worked the way I was hoping that they would.
Right. Do you have a process when you write? Many people do,
Nothing defined. I do keep an outline. Like, I know where I'm going to start. I know where I want to be in the middle, where I want to end. But I do have this outline. Sometimes like for this one, I actually wrote it down. But I let the characters grow.
Right.
And I let them become more. I started with the character. His name's Louis Montreal.
Okay. Cool name.
And
Yeah.
he comes in. He was supposed to be a big character. He was supposed to be a minor character, but he was so much fun. he just grew into this, and he's cooking hot dogs and barbecuing for the guys, and
yes.
I mean, he just kind of grew into the story, and it was a lot of fun. So that
that's a cool character in the book.
Yes.
It definitely is.
and so he's going to be in the next one. By the way, yeah. But anyway, so while I have like an outline of where I want to go and how I want to do it,
Right.
I do let the characters develop and grow and kind of take personalities of their own. So even Jones grew in the book from what I initially envisioned, and he really developed into a character.
So, is there a second book?
There is.
Okay.
Working on it now.
The characters in the second book, who's the main character in it?
So the main characters are, Shiokawa and Jones are the
Okay.
main characters. So it's two. Now, of course, it's Detective Shiokawa murder mystery, so he's the Sherlock Holmes, but Jones is the Watson. Okay,
Makes
so
sense.
so they're partners, and it's a good team. They really play off of each other, and I kind of use like the language as a way to illustrate that. They're both. Jones is fluent in Japanese. He went to school in Japan. Shirakawa, of course, is Japanese and knows English, so they can talk both. So they can sit here speaking English and then switch to Japanese, and then switch back to English.
That's cool.
And then
Yeah.
just kind of mush everything all together.
So the second book, as far as like a murder mystery, you're keeping with that supernatural flair in the book.
Yes, I am.
Kind of like you were talking about the series Kojak, The Night Stalker. Like where it's not what you think it is, but it could be, type of thing. Yeah.
So they're actually I won't give too much away, but it's actually gonna start here at this school where we're at, which is Belendo Shotokan in Monaca, PA.
Yes.
Because the
Yes.
character, and I wanted to kind of mention this,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
So in the first book, there's not a suspect. There's somebody who cohabitated with the suspect. They were roommates,
Right.
and in the apartment that was above the school. And the detectives came here to interview her to find more information. At the point of time, that person was a person of interest. to get more information about the person that they were looking into.
Right, right.
And as they leave, they meet the instructor, who happens to be named Clint,
Ah,
and they're really impressed. So both Jones
is
and
that
Shiokawa.
that character from what I read? That character is from Dead Adrenaline. Actually,
Yes.
a book I wrote.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, I have a copy of it here. Yeah, so Dead Adrenaline is meshed in with this, and the character Clint is the hero in this book, The Man Called Clint.
That's right.
And that character and this character are the same. And what you write about him is before this DA apocalypse or the Dead Adrenaline apocalypse hits.
Correct. So it's a bit of a prequel. Okay, so you get to introduce the man called Clint.
Okay,
Uh,
yes.
And in the first book, in this book, he's introduced as an instructor who both Jones and Shiokawa take to, because he's all the man called Clint's also in law enforcement, and so they all hit it off, and they're really impressed with the school, and they said they promise that they're going to come back after the murder is solved, and they're going to take some classes.
Ah,
So that's how the second book starts, with them coming to class and taking a
right,
class.
right.
And so, and if I may,
Yes.
Shiokawa is the one who actually coins the name, A Man Called Clint. Because in Japanese, he says to Jones, this man called Clint really knows his stuff.
Right.
And
Well,
then-
that name must have carried on because that's what's in this book, right?
And so that's how we introduce the name. And then, but yeah, they come in and they enjoy class, and
Cool.
they take karate, and it's very, and Jones
That's
and
kind of neat, like the blending, you know. That's funny you said that, you know. We're talking about your book, Murder at Witches Hollow, available on Amazon.com, by the way, along with Dead Adrenaline too. That's available, right? It's a shameless plug. But what's funny about it is the second book that's coming out, Time Break Expedition, Dead Adrenaline 2, or The Return, Dead Adrenaline 2. In the second book, Jones and Shiokawa are mentioned and talked about.
Okay.
Yes, it's kind of a little taste of possibly maybe one of the first Dead Adrenaline zombie type thing, creature, human, whatever you want to think. They may have surfaced before this actual takeover had occurred many years before.
Right.
So if you read the book or read that book, you'll kind of understand, and if you read the second book, you'll really understand.
Yes. So we're doing crossover, and
Yes.
so the characters are definitely so. Yes, shamelessly plugging. You got to buy both books to really understand.
Not just one, both. No.
But basically we're allowing the characters to interplay between the books. And
Yes.
The murder series is before Dead Adrenaline, so it's like you meet the character before all the events that happen in your book.
Right. Well, I have to say this has been a great interview. You know, being a guest interviewer, interviewing the actual host of a book you can sink your teeth into. What an honor. I appreciate it. And I'd
Thank
like to
you.
give you a copy of my book if I could.
Well, I would love
You know,
that.
and I'd like to sign it for you if I could.
Oh, thank you.
Here you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now,
Yep.
what I'm going to do
Which is hollow.
is I'm going to return the favor. Or no, I'm not. I'm cheap. You got to buy it. No.
You gotta buy it.
I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
I like
so if
this-
I'm going to have that,
I like your system.
Now I'm going to write the same thing here.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
There you go, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Now
you.
remember, you plug my book if you like. Put it up there. The Murder at Witches Hollow.
And
Dead
Adrenaline.
Buy it.
Amazon.com.
Amazon.com. This is also available at the Little Green Bookstore in Zillionople, PA. More to come. Thanks again. And I hope you guys enjoyed a book you can sink your teeth into. And I appreciate it again. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.